Hi, so my name is Kareen, and I am a member of Revelation Church LA, and I have been living in my car for the past 6 weeks or so, and I typically don't make these kinds of videos. However, the Lord did tell me to make this one, so here we go, right? So, I started living in my car about 6 weeks ago, and I wasn't sure why I was here in this present circumstance, right? Being, following the Lord, being obedient to Him, knowing Him as provider and things. I couldn't understand why I was homeless, and I definitely didn't understand why we were homeless for so long. I've never been homeless to the point where I'm living in my car. And so I started asking God questions like, why are we going through this? What am I supposed to learn or get from this? And as I started, and then I heard the Lord, as I was asking those questions, I started hearing the Lord tell me to surrender. And at first I didn't understand what that meant. But I kept, going with life. And eventually I understood. And so I was really ready to get out of this situation. And so I was literally just in it, waiting for the next thing and not understanding the lesson I was supposed to get out of it, or not seeing what the Lord needed me to see out of it, right? And this is what it was, right? So basically, I had to learn how to, or figure out how to take a shower every day. I had to figure out how to eat food every day. And I had to figure out how to just sustain myself, or how people get through, with the heat and dehydration and all of that. And as I was going through that, I realized that as I started figuring these things out, I realized that I would come across the same people over and over again, right? And I also realized these people also went to the church. And not only did they go to the church, they were also experiencing the same things I was. So they were also in homelessness, or also in great need. And I said, okay, I'm picking up on this pattern, Lord, but why are you showing me this, right? And then I started to see what the Lord wanted me to see. And that was that the church, the people in the church in and of itself, is more preoccupied with receiving God's hand than having God's heart. And I say that to say this because I have encountered people who have told me their stories and told me their experiences. And I think it's crazy. I think it's trying to be as respectable as I can, but also as truthful as I can. I think there's a serious problem if the church that we go to, a church period, a place that's supposed to be a sanctuary, a safe haven for people, if you come into church, you're going to this church, and you park in the parking lot because you're homeless, and they kick you off of the premises. And I've heard that experience. I've heard people tell me that. Recently, I encountered a family, a husband and wife and their children, and they're homeless, and they were sleeping in the parking lot, and they were told to leave. And then I said, because I'm like, okay, well, did anybody get your information? No one got their phone number. I said, did they tell you anything on how they can help you? She said, no. The family said, no. They told me that they were simply asked to leave. And that frustrates me more than anything, Because how can we, as children of God, see a family living in their car and they decide that the church is their place where they can be safe, and then we turn them away? We don't get their contact information. We don't get their names. We don't give them any information, any phone numbers or anything. We just turn them away. And that response is not just a one-time, one-off thing. I myself was told, I was in the church one day, I wasn't doing well mentally, and someone caught me and they were like, go to the info desk and get information. I said, okay. I went to the info desk. They gave me 3 pamphlets, and one was for food stamps, one was for food pantries, and one was for, what was the other one for? For housing as rental assistance, like if you already had a home. None of those which could help me currently in my current situation, like in my immediate need. But the main point that I wanted to make was that I was then referred to someone else who told me that they would refer me to someone else who would then send me an application for the benevolence team, who would, and then the benevolence team would review my application, and they would let me know if they could help me or not. That was 2 weeks ago, and I can tell you that from that day to this day, I never got an application. I never got any type of, aside from the one person who saw me having a bad day, crying in service, and asked me how I was doing, and they continued to ask me how I was doing. No one has reached out to me, even though I supposedly was referred to someone else and someone else and someone else. No one's reached out to me. And then there's the people who are physically in the church. I know another lady that she went to Salome for healing, believing she was healed, right? She believed she was healed. So she walked out in her faith, right? She ended up experiencing a medical emergency. And the only number or contact information that she had to reach a person, and I don't mean no general email, I don't mean the church's Instagram page, I mean to reach a literal person, right? Was someone on the testimonies team, because she didn't give a testimony at Salome, and they take testimonies. And so they were asking her, they told her if she wanted to give her testimony, she could call this person whenever she was ready and she could give one. And literally she went through a medical emergency. And obviously, I'm gonna give them this, that when you go through a medical emergency, obviously call the ambulance, call 911. But I think the part that's frustrating is the fact that she went through all of that, good, bad, or ugly. She vocalized it, she communicated it to the church. And from that day to this day, she has received no response. She went through a medical emergency. She informed her church, and no one in the church, even if that's not the right party, but nobody had enough couth to write her back or to call her and say, hey, it's really nothing that we could do, but I just wanted to make sure that you're okay. Like, I think the amount of people who are in need in the church and who are falling through the cracks, the amount of people who are in need, who are going unnoticed, is crazy. It's asinine. It really is. There are people in the church who you can tell, you can physically look at them and this person and that person is homeless. And there's one specific person I'm thinking about. I see them in church. They're very kind. When I leave from the gym, from taking a shower, every night, I see them sleeping at the bus stop. They sleep at the bus stop. Now, I have been sleeping in my car for the past 6 weeks. I'm shielded a little bit from the elements, right? I have to put on 2 coats. I have a comforter and a blanket, and I have to put on socks to make sure that I stay warm. I can't even imagine what this person goes through every single night sleeping at the bus stop. And it's very evident. It's very evident that they're in need. There's another person who I know who is homeless, right? I seen her yesterday. I saw her at the fast. I see her in church. I see them. And I literally got brought to tears because this person's shoes is falling off of their feet. It's falling off of their feet. And I was like, I don't know what to do because I don't have any money. But if I did, I would go up to her and be like, hey, can I talk to you for a second? Can I just pull you to the side? And can I buy you a pair of shoes? Or are you all right? Are you in need? And it's crazy to me that I'm not the first person to observe her. I'm not the first person to see her. I'm not the first person to see any of these people. But it's crazy to me that we can be in a church where we're preached about abundance and prosperity and this and that, and we have people who their shoes are falling off at their feet, and ain't nobody got enough compassion to walk up to them and say, excuse me, can I buy you some shoes? Even if you're not a church leader, even if you're not serving in the church, just being a plain old Christian, we can't even walk up to nobody and be like, excuse me, ma'am, I noticed that, you've been wearing these shoes, Well, can I buy you a pair of shoes? Is that all right? Even if you got to work an extra hour or two at work, just so you could take someone to just Walmart and get them some shoes. Like, it's crazy to me, the type of responses that the people in need receive here. A lot of people don't get no response. A lot of people get very minimal responses, but for the most part, from what I've experienced, from the stories that people are telling me, people are not getting responses because people don't care. They don't care. I've had people tell me that the environment of the church, when they walk in, they feel ashamed because of the way that they look and the way that they dress compared to the other people in the church. They feel judged when they come in the church. Can you imagine? The place that you're supposed to come as you are? And as you are is that you only have 2 or 3 pairs of pants, 2 or 3 shirts. As you are is 1 pair of shoes. As you are is 1 brush. No type of hairstyles. You can't go to the hair salon. And you walk in to praise the Lord, to worship the Lord, to receive his word. And the moment you walk into the church, you feel judged. The place you're supposed to come as you are. That's heartbreaking. That's heartbreaking. And I'm just like, and I think it's very telling. It's very telling of the type of atmosphere. It's very telling of the hearts of the people in the church. It's very telling of the hearts of the people in the church. Because if in 6 weeks, the Lord could call me to go through this experience, to notice these people who have fallen through the cracks, imagine how long this has been happening to people. Imagine how many people who have voiced their needs or their concerns and no one has met them at all. Even if you were to just meet them and say, well, currently we're unable to provide assistance, or currently, we're at maximum capacity or whatever. The fact that y'all can't even respond to people, the fact that y'all not even giving responses, it's telling. It's telling to the actual heart posture of this church. It's telling of the heart posture of this church, and it's frustrating. It's frustrating because we sit in the church and we preach about all these things that we can receive from God. When our brother and our sister sitting next to us, they may just need some lunch. But we don't even got enough compassion within ourselves to look to the brother or the sister next to us and say, excuse me, how are you doing today? Is there anything that I could help you with? I may not have much, but I might got something I can help you with. Literally. There's this young girl. I saw her in church. I saw her walking around Simi Valley with a suitcase and her things, walking around for 2 days, walking around the city. I saw her engaging with the leaders of the church. I saw her speaking to them. I've seen her speak to them. Monday night, the Lord told me to go to a very specific place. He said, go to El Pollo Loco. I said, Lord, what do you want me to go to El Pollo Loco for? He said, go to El Pollo Loco. This young girl, 20 years old, is sitting in the El Pollo Loco. And I went to ask her. I said, hey, how did you get here? What's going on? Da-da-da-da-da. Zeal or no zeal, she moved for the church. She informed the church that's what she did. She informed them she was homeless. And they sent her a application for her to fill out. And then she was left to figure the rest out on her own. She's 20. She could be your little sister. She could be your cousin. She could be your friend. She could be your daughter. And she was just left to figure it out. And nobody called in on. I asked her, did anybody follow up with you? She said, no. She submitted her application and no one reached out to her. No one responded to her. No one saw her. And I'm really making this video for those people, because the person sleeping at the bus stop, the family that's being kicked out of the parking lot, the people that are experiencing things, they're looking for counsel, they're looking for help. The resource shouldn't be to tell them, here's 3 flyers, call 211, figure it out. As a church, we claim to know God, but can we act like him a little bit? Anyways, I wanted to share that for those people in hopes that the right people see this and the church can start making some actual changes to actually help people. For the people who either can't speak up for themselves or won't. For the people who are in need. For the people who are homeless. Mind you, I've only been going through this for 6 weeks. I can only imagine how many people have gone through this for, just to say this year, the past 2 years. How many people have come to the church for help or in need and left because they were unseen, unheard, because we didn't have enough compassion to show them, because we didn't want to come out of our $40 out of our pockets to buy them a pair of new shoes. The way that we treat each other, also shows the type of Christ that we have. And we can't even be concerned with one another. We're so concerned about receiving for ourselves. How about you guys just give to your community? Give back to people and stop being too concerned about what you can get out of the deal. Anyways, that's all that I have. Hope you guys have a great day. Bye.